3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to the FlairBar.com show. Tales of the Cocktail 2015. We brought Jeff Rogers back. Jeff, thanks for coming, man.
Of course.
Great party last night at the Bacardi event.
It was amazing.
What did you like the most?
Man, I would say that the tonic room with multiple different tonics for each different gin, and then to be able to add essences to it was amazing.
From Bitter Cube, those guys are amazing.
Yeah, it was unreal. I was very impressed.
And they had some cool cocktails on tap. I was really impressed with learning more about that. Just everything. It's overall a great event.
It really was. It really was.
Then,
and the flash mob, as we talked about, right?
Yeah, hopefully we can get a clip of that. That was, we're all wondering, why are these guys dressed up in kickball uniforms? And then now we know.
Yep, and they just danced their butts off, right? And a bunch of middle-aged men in tight clothing. It was hilarious.
It's always better when you're drinking liquor. Oh, and my favorite one was the Dragos.
Oh, oysters
right there.
In a trailer.
Check. Don't have to make that trip today.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to worry about it. But you could tell that they definitely went over the top of sorts, and it was worth it. It was well worth it.
Now, speaking of well worth it, the reason why we brought you back on, because you just enlightened us today, what you just went through. And I know for a lot of reviewers out there, especially our United States Bartenders Guild members, you've just taken the second level in the USBG Master Accreditation Program. If you can you talk briefly on each of the 3 tiers, what they are, and then we'll dive into more from there.
Sure. The first level is what they call the Spiritist Professional Test, and it's simply by using the actual manual, which you get on their website.
The price is like $40 roughly?
Yeah, I think it's like 35, somewhere between 35 and 40. I don't remember the exact price. But out of that, you just follow the chapters, read them in. They get in depth into spirits production, mash bills, all the grains, all your grapes, these things. Also included is the IBA rules, and service is a big part of that book as well. But then the first part is an online test or a written test. And then the second part, which is Advanced Bartender, is a written test and a practical test. So the practical test you can only take when they're offering the practical test, which they happen to offer every year, Tails year. So I wanted to make sure I got in on that. And then that's a 5 level. And we'll get back to that 5 level in a second. And then the last one is the Master Mixologist, which you get approximately a year to a year and a half to do a thesis. You get to choose a subject on what you want to study, and you get to present it to the board, the national board of the USBG, and once it's accepted, it goes into the archives as a knowledge base so that any bartender from here on out will be able to go and reference it.
That's amazing. Now, let me just say, from start to finish, level 1 to end of level 3, roughly how long should someone plan for that?
I would say you have to base it on what your knowledge is or what your comfortability is. Don't be afraid to fail. There are some people, period, that failed, and it's not a bad thing. It's okay. It's going to take some time. I studied probably for about 3 or 4 months for the Spirits Professional exam. For this next step, for the practical, I practiced, rehearsed, and studied for about 6 months, give or take. The written test here coming up as well, I'm going to do. I got done, but again, in that time frame was about 3 months worth of book studying, and then the next one again, 1.5 years total.
Now let me ask this: what was your motivation for taking this?
I love knowledge. I love knowledge like nobody's business, and we're in a point now where so much knowledge is available, and the ability to accept that knowledge and apply it is the big key. I see a lot of people that love knowledge, but they assume they're a great bartender because they have that knowledge. This is a program that really forces you to be a great bartender too. So to apply the knowledge, not just say, just because you know something's from 1947 and when it's born, of course, I love that stuff too, history nerd. But when it comes to servicing your guest and actually bartending a bar, does that knowledge really help you? Yes, it can add to it, as the flair we talked about yesterday, and it can experience a guest experience.
Yeah, it works.
Whatever. But it can raise that level. If they're interested in that stuff and they nerd out, of course, when it comes down to it, being able to do efficiency, being able to do a speed test, being able to do blind tastings, these types of things, I sought after that because I want to try to soak up as much knowledge as I possibly can.
Now let's start from the beginning. Level 1, the Spirits Accreditation Program. Or Spirits Professional, I'm sorry.
Yep.
What did that involve? What was your preparation for it? And walking into it, what can we expect the test to be?
So if you take the test online, it is timed. So you get about 11 to 15 seconds per question, and it goes away. It just absolutely goes away. So if you don't answer it,
going back.
Nope. If it goes away, you just get it wrong if you didn't answer it. So it's very important to know that you're ready when it's time to take it. And obviously the point of that is so you don't sit there with a manual and just start cranking it out. Of course we don't want that. So preparation again is your comfortability. there are, and I don't know if you can get a close-up of it necessarily of some sorts, but say in Irish whiskey there's a star. So it says Advanced Spirits Professional or whatever, and it has a 1 through, I think it's 4 stars. So depending on how many stars there are is depending on how much that is going to be weighted on that test. So you can start with the most stars and really get to know that information and then kind of branch out, or you can just do it all. But once you feel comfortable with that, that's when it's pull the trigger on the test.
Okay, now once you're ready to take the test, it took you how long, how many different chapters, what were they really focusing on, dates, or was it overall process of things, how it was made, application?
Manufacturing, process, and service of said spirit, or beer, for example, or wine, or sake. It is a chapter upon chapter upon chapter, and each one's going to vary, but it's always going to cover production, fermentation, distillation, grains or whatever the base material is, aging of any sorts, what types of wood could it be aged in. So it's going to cover all those laws that we've always wanted to know about. And again, not necessarily so that we can tell a guest, hey, I know this stuff, but it's so that we know if I'm going in to make an old-fashioned and the guest that I'm in front of, say, likes a sweeter old-fashioned, maybe I use a wheated bourbon instead of a rye-type bourbon. Those are the knowledge that you want to get out of this, and that's what this book will tell you.
Awesome. And then when you're done with it, when you successfully pass, do they give you a pin or a certificate?
Great question.
Wait to find out.
there was a certificate for passing the level 1. I heard a rumor pin that I have not received. I don't know about that one necessarily. But so I just rock my normal USB-G pin, right, at all times. But I believe there is a certificate that's coming at least for level 2. I don't know about level 1 because I never received one. And then level 3, you get a bunch of things. So.
Besides a pat on the back. Now let's talk about level 2. Now this is the Advanced Bartender Practical.
Yep.
How did you even study for this? And is that included in here, or what study guides did you use?
It is included in there. It kind of walks through it and tells you what it is. But when it comes to the practical, that's the practice. That's what us flair bartenders know. The 7 hours of sweat, blood, and tears in a garage. Because the IBA rules are very, very specific. And things like presenting a product, if you will, before you use it, or handling garnishes with tweezers or tongs, making sure that labels are out, making sure you're wiping off the bottle when you're pouring, little things like this. For the IBA section, that's just one part. And that I rehearsed a lot, just to make sure I go through that. And as we've gone through flair routines multiple times, of course, the second you get up there, there's always that one thing where you're like, "Don't!" I did that a million times, before, but I didn't do it here. And sure enough, when I was here, there was one thing that I didn't show the simple syrup. Yeah. That was a point off. And Dario mentioned it yesterday, which is know your rules. And that's really what it is. You just kind of have a breakdown, and it is full breakdown in that book as well. And that's just one part. Then you have a speed round, where you have to make 4 cocktails. Then there's
is it like a rock spilled, shake?
Yeah, they generally kind of mix it up. You're going to generally have at least 1 shaken, 1 muddled, 1 stirred, for sure. And then maybe 1 wild card of sorts.
Now, is there a master recipe list, or is going off of how you interpret that recipe? Because, say, Sex on the Beach, there's hundreds of different recipes for it. An old fashioned, you might make with the orange and cherry. You might make it with the simple syrup and the orange peel.
Sure.
Like, is there a definite? This is how the IBA wants it done, or is your interpretation of it?
At the back of the book, there is 83 total recipes that are in there that are IBA recipes that the USBG has taken on as being part of the IBA, and those recipes are in there. And you need to study those. You need to know them. You need to know them for the written tests on both, and you need to use them for the practical, because if they call off that recipe, you need to go off of their recipe. So definitely a little bit of a part is that you can't just say, I'm going to look at this book for 2 days. Yeah. Because you're going to look at it, and you're going to realize you've never made a particular drink that way before, but you have to be open-minded, right? Mm-hmm. There's a million ways to make them a lasagna. Doesn't mean they're wrong, So you have to be able to accept something that's different. And giving yourself that allotment of time to know that you might have to untrain what is usually reaction, because you have to put a great drink out in front of somebody. So even if that recipe doesn't make sense to you, you still kind of have that leeway, if you will, to make sure that you put out a balanced cocktail. And the judges will talk to you about that.
Okay, so that was one of the rounds, actually making 4 different cocktails.
Yep.
And then what was after that?
They do a bar simulation where 2 guests walk into your bar and they try to screw you up. To be honest with you, it's really what they do is they try to screw you up. And the whole point is just to see how your reaction is. I mentioned a little bit yesterday about the duck pond theory, right? gentleman just walks in a bartender, but the internal, they're just going crazy. And it's that same kind of thing. They wanted to see how you react. Did you panic? Did you freak out? Guests feed off of that. If a bartender is freaking out, a lot of times guests start to get panicky, so they start to order more, and it actually implodes on itself. You know, so it was great. It was really cool to see that. You have somebody, they actually were a couple, if you will, woman, man, walking in, and you walk through the whole steps. You know, you give them water, you offer them menus. What are your spirits of choice? What are the cocktails that you have to offer? And that was exciting. I really enjoyed that.
Nice. So coming from it now, do you feel like going through this has made you a better bartender?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because practicing it, I started to realize some things again that I have never thought of before, that I love to accept the ideas that there's so many things out there that I've never thought of. And then all of a sudden you hit that one thing and you're like, wow, how simple was that?
Yeah.
But this way I've been doing it 3 steps the whole time. And because of going through these rules and whatnot, now I just have 1 step. And that to me is, I mean, steps are money.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it comes down to. If you take 10 steps to make a drink, when you can only take 5, you can serve 2 more people.
Less steps
It's a
equals
huge
more
thing.
money.
Dang right.
Now, let me ask you this now. For everyone that's going out there and actually want to take the program, buys the book, what advice would you give them to how to utilize this book and study?
The best part is you don't have to go cover to cover. You don't have to do that. So start out with whatever you want to have fun with, because a lot of times people look at this and like, bartenders, right, we don't want to study. That's not what a lot of things do. You know, I had a conversation with somebody the other day where we could sit there, you and I, and maybe we were talking about the West Himalayan turkey, right? And we could have a 2-hour conversation about what are their feathers like and whatever. We wouldn't even think twice about it. But the second somebody says, I'm going to test you on that, it's like, oh, it seems arduous, you know? So accept it for what it is. Get into the stuff that you are really enjoy, I guess. And then as you're doing that and getting more excited about that, it will lead you to the other chapters. And you're like, well, God, I thought it was this, so now I better check the whiskey section and go back and forth. That was the way that I approached it, personally, was to know that if you keep an open mind and you keep going through those chapters, you're going to learn something that you've never had before.
Awesome. Jeff, I appreciate everything. Thanks for coming back
My
on the
pleasure
show.
again, man.
Some great knowledge. If you guys haven't checked it out, United States Bartenders Guild, get the book, take the test, make more money, become a better bartender. Jeff,
Cheers.
thanks again.
I appreciate it.
We'll be back right after this.